Imagine, you are many kilometers from the coast. As you float to the surface of the water, you realize that the boat is nowhere to be found. You have been forgotten in the middle of an endless sea infested with sharks. You call for help, but no one answers. There is not a single ledge around that one could grab onto. You look around, feeling panicked as the cold water envelopes you.
Help! Help me! Help!
Thoughts flash through your head. How long can you stay afloat? The sea seems limitless, but the horizon is not visible. The longer you stay on the surface, the more tired you begin to feel, and your every movement becomes harder and harder. From this moment the countdown begins for you. A young couple of divers, Tom and Eileen Lonergan, surface after yet another dive to discover that their boat has sailed away, leaving them stranded on the open sea. 2 days later, the search begins, but it turns out to be fruitless. Over the next week, various pieces of their diving equipment wash ashore, raising many questions. The most terrible discovery is a diving board that belonged to the couple. The inscription on this tablet is truly terrifying. Were they able to swim to the shore and disappear forever? Or did they become victims of the endless depths of the ocean, infested with sharks? This story, full of horror, panic, fear and despair, will not leave anyone indifferent. The white beaches and crystal clear waters of the Great Barrier Reef in Western Australia make it one of the best holiday destinations in the world. It is also one of the best places for scuba diving. However, this paradise also has a dark side. On January 25, 1998, the Outer Edge left Port Douglas with 20 passengers. Among the passengers was an American young couple, 34-year-old Tom and 28-year-old Eileen Lonergan, who arrived on holiday in Australia from the USA. Tom and Eileen were experienced divers with over 150 dives under their belt. For $160, a team of 5 took them on 3 dives at St. Crispin's Reef, located along the barrier reef 40 kilometers offshore. On the way to the reef, one of the tourists takes a home video with his video camera. The video shows Tom and Eileen standing on board shortly before their disappearance. Lonergan went on the dive with other divers. On their third dive, the couple sank underwater and were last seen at a depth of 12 meters. After spending about 40 minutes underwater, they surfaced, but their boat had disappeared. They were left alone under the scorching sun in the middle of the endless sea. The day after the young couple goes missing, another group of divers arrives at St. Crispin's Reef. Divers noticed weights on the ocean floor in the area where Lonergan was diving. These weights are used to change buoyancy, but the find did not arouse suspicion, since no one yet knew about the missing spouses. 2 days after going missing, the skipper of the Outer Edge, Jeffrey, makes a frightening discovery: 2 pairs of shoes and 2 dive bags left on board. The items included wallets containing passports, credit cards and identification cards belonging to Lonergan. Concerned by the discovery, he called the owner of the hostel in Cairns where the couple were staying to see if they had returned. After receiving the answer that Lonergan had not shown up, the skipper reported the matter to the police. By this point, the young couple had been gone for 51 hours. It is reported that 2 passengers aboard the Outer Edge were accidentally counted twice by the crew. As the count began, 2 passengers on the foredeck jumped into the water. Then, when the count was taking place on the rear deck, the 2 passengers came back on board and were counted again. Later, one of the crew, Carl, said, "When I got back on board the boat, I looked back and saw bubbles on the surface of the water. I thought they were fish, but now, looking back, they were Lonergan bubbles." After it became clear that the pair had remained on the reef, an extensive 3-day search was carried out. The search operations involved 17 aircraft, helicopters, police boats, divers and Navy divers. On the 4th day, the search was stopped because it was unsuccessful. Detectives believed that if some of Lonergan's equipment washed ashore, it would provide a clue as to what happened to them. Police said ocean currents could carry debris to northern land regions. Rescuers began a search 40 kilometers north of the place where the couple was last seen. On the 11th day after their disappearance, rescuers found Tom Lonergan's buoyancy vest on a crocodile-infested beach in the Indian Head Beach area. 3 days later, an Eileen vest was found in the same area, and 2 days later a black diver's hood with her name on it was found. Eileen's right flipper was also found. These items were found on February 12 and 16. Police found 2 dive cylinders, and although there was no direct evidence that they belonged to the couple, police were confident that the cylinders were theirs. All these finds gave hope that Tom and Eileen managed to reach the shore, although their equipment was scattered several kilometers apart. The equipment found raised questions among the police. Could someone deliberately throw them ashore, and is it possible that Lonergan themselves did this? A strange story about a man from their hometown got the detectives thinking. 10 years before Lonergan went missing, police arrested American Milton Harris for faking his death. He jumped off a ferry en route to New Zealand and was soon discovered there. His family received $1 million in insurance payouts. This man was from the same town as Tom and Eileen and attended the same church. All this suggested that Lonergan may have faked their disappearance. However, the police doubted that they could survive in the ocean infested with sharks and swim to the shore where crocodiles were found. However, they could have reached land in another way. Not far from where they disappeared are floating docks called pontoons. During the investigation, police determined that the Lonergans could have swum about 6 kilometers to the nearest pontoon at Agincourt Reef. If they had reached the pontoon, they could have returned to shore unnoticed, mingling with other tourists. After this theory was put forward, police received numerous calls reporting that the couple had allegedly been seen on the mainland. None of these reports led to their discovery, but many experts believe that swimming 6 kilometers to the nearest pontoon through the strong ocean current would have been almost impossible, since the Lonergans were not strong swimmers. Additionally, the Lonergans' bank accounts were never used again, making the theory that their disappearance was staged unlikely. The eerie and frightening discovery was made on June 28, 5 months after the couple went missing. In the remote swamps of the Agincourt Reef, 2 fishermen found a diving board, which divers used to communicate underwater. The plaque contained an address in the United States and a telephone number belonging to the Lonergans. On it was written a faded message, which the fishermen copied into a notebook. Here's what it said. Monday, January 26, 1998, 8 o'clock. To anyone who can help us, we were abandoned at Agincourt Reef by the outer edge on January 25, 1998 at 1500 hours. Please save us. Send us help before we die. Help. The tablet was sent to the laboratory for examination, as theories arose that it could have simply been planted. The growth of seaweed on the tablet showed that it had been in the water since their disappearance. Handwriting experts concluded that the grim message was written by Tom. After this discovery, the whole story was filled with horror and despair. The Lonergans were left on the reef at 1500 hours on January 25, and the inscription on the tablet indicated that they wrote this message on January 26 at 8 o'clock. This means the couple spent at least 17 hours in open water. Police said it was unlikely that anyone could survive in the open ocean for more than 4 days. When the search began, the Lonergans had been missing for more than 2 days, but there was still some hope. Police also noted that, unlike other divers that day, Tom and Eileen were wearing heavy diving suits that could protect them from the hot sun and hypothermia. However, these suits could not protect them from the ocean's most dangerous predators. Many people believe that Tom and Eileen were victims of sharks. If we assume that this is the case, then the situation becomes even more terrible. However, there are doubts about this version as well. Almost all the equipment found was practically intact, which is unlikely when encountering sharks. The only damage to the Eileen wetsuit, a tear in the material around the buttocks and armpits, was likely caused by coral the suit came into contact with on the way to shore. Another point that still remains unclear: Tom's buoyancy vest was found disconnected. This means it was taken by hand. The question arises why they decided to get rid of their suits, which provided them with buoyancy. Experts involved in the investigation suggested that, as they drifted helplessly back and forth through the waves under the scorching tropical sun, the pair may have become delirious from dehydration and voluntarily discarded their bulky equipment. However, without the buoyancy provided by their wetsuits, they would not be able to stay afloat for long. The fact that the dive board was found on the shore may mean that Tom and Eileen attached it to some kind of floating object. Perhaps the object was a piece of equipment they had disposed of. When Tom and Eileen surfaced and didn't find the boat, they probably thought that when the boat returned to shore, they would notice they were missing and come back for them. They probably believed and hoped that help was about to arrive and that they were already looking for them. But they had no idea that the search would begin only after 50 hours, and all this time no one remembered about them. During this time, the equipment could already be carried away over a long distance by the current. They could become victims of sharks, drown due to dehydration and exhaustion, or simply fall asleep, unable to sleep while afloat. Some still believe that they somehow made it to shore and disappeared forever. Friends, be sure to write in the comments your versions of what happened to Tom and Eileen when they realized that they were left alone in the middle of the sea. If the video was interesting for you, then subscribe to the channel and like it.